Hello everyone, it's Mike from Downtown Comics, and we're here to discuss the last two episodes of Creature Commandos, episodes 6 and 7, the end of the first season. With me today is James Rossman. James, how are we doing?
Good, Mike.
All right, so yes, we've already discussed 1 through 5 in different episodes, so go back and check those out if you haven't. We are going to be talking briefly about some non-spoilery stuff, and then we'll go right into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the end of the first season, watch that first, then come back, and you can pick up on our thoughts and hear all the different spoilers and not be mad at us. So we'll let you know right before we start the spoilers. So first off, all right, the end of the first season, what did you think, just 6 and 7 overall? Like, what were your takes? Just the general takes.
Don't get me wrong, I really liked them. I like the whole first season in general, but I think episode 7 kind of it made me mad, and I'll get into that later. But overall, I really liked it. But at the ending, I was just I was a little bummed. So
okay,
yeah.
I too have mixed feelings. Like, I do like the show, but there's a nihilism in there that I can't help but get a little uncomfortable about.
Yes.
It does seem to be James Gunn ultimately trying, like, oh, I can go this far, but then I'm going to go this much farther just to make
100%.
it that much worse in many different ways that we'll discuss. So yeah, I liked it. I watched it. I want to see a second season, but I don't know. I can't say that it's a home run for me, or that I loved it, or so and then so also in general, we know that every episode flashes back to a specific character. So episode 6 was
Dr. Phosphorus.
Dr. Phosphorus, and then episode 7 is
Nina.
Nina. Okay, so we get the final 2 of our little crew kind of backstories, and they're just as bad as you think they are, and then worse.
Yep.
So anything else we want to say? I mean, I guess I will say they seem to have finished. It wasn't a cliffhanger.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're worried that, they're going to drag whatever story they're telling, the current story, they're going to drag it into the second season, there may be fallout from what happens, but no. They clear up the main storyline, I guess.
I guess, something else I would say, too, is the only thing I could think that, going into season 2 would be dealing with Cersei still, maybe.
Okay, I guess that's true. Yeah, we don't really get an idea of what's going on there. Okay, any other, before we go into spoilers, anything else that we want to talk about?
I don't think so. Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, then here we go. So spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're on spoiler. Okay, so let's start with episode 6. So what's your big takeaway on the Dr. Phosphorus origin?
So, I mean, obviously in the flashback of, when these henchmen that, were after him throws him into this, like, machine, because, he, like, created this treatment for nuclear fusion that destroys cancer without harming the patient, basically. Yep. And,
but he borrowed money from the wrong people in order to finance it, and they came collecting.
Yeah, and they got to his family first, and that was, my gosh, that was extremely...
That was very brutal, man. I mean,
so dark.
I mean, there's always a, I don't know if you know this, but for a long time, especially in movies, there was 2 things you couldn't do: kill a kid or kill a dog. That was kind of an unspoken rule about can't. So you kind of knew the kid was safe and the dog was safe for the most part. And James Gunn doesn't care about that at all. So if you don't like to see kids killed, which I did not, it was uncomfortable. But there it is.
Even being a cartoon. Like,
yes. Well, and that somehow makes it worse. I don't know why.
I know. Yeah.
It's more realistic, even though it's not.
And
so I don't know, but yes, that uncomfortable. But anyway, so yes, they kill his family. They're pretty much going to kill him. They stick him in the machine, and voila, comic books. and instead of dying, he
becomes Dr. Phosphorus.
becomes Dr. Phosphorus, then proceeds to murder a bunch of people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he also does not care.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he-
So I guess the one thing we can say is we understand his crazy
yeah,
but almost calm crazy.
yeah, exactly.
He's mentally snapped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the death of his family, you can clearly see it that he mentally snapped and is not sane at all.
Really, it's like, obviously, like this whole season, we, all the Creature Commandos, like, you have the team, but it's like Dr. Phosphorus could have just done everything by himself, I think.
Yes. I mean, he's
Like-
clearly the most powerful. He's
Mhm.
he's basically unkillable for
Yeah.
what we know now. Even at the Suicide Squad
Mhm.
level with Amanda Waller, like what's keeping him there? I don't think it's anything she's doing.
Yeah.
I think he simply doesn't give a rat's ass.
I think so.
And I think at
Yeah.
this point, if it gives him the ability to like go kill people and have fun doing it, I
Mhm.
think he's down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, in this episode too, he enters it's just a random person's house, I think, right?
yeah, because they're on the
yeah,
run. So at the
yeah,
end of
yeah.
episode 5, they got split up because they
Mhm.
came into the country to kill the princess again.
Yeah.
Poor Sergey. Sergey.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Poor Sergey,
So
our
sad.
lovable guard. Spoiler alert. Our lovable guard. He kills him.
Well, here's the thing, like James Gunn, as we know with like the Guardians movies, like whenever James Gunn is doing something, it's like if you get attached to a character, good luck.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's true.
Otherwise,
So yeah, it's very disappointed. But Dr.
Yeah.
Frost kills him and then like says like, "Oh man, I like that guy."
Yeah.
So because
Yeah.
obviously the princess now knows that Suicide Squad was not heading back in to protect her,
Mhm.
but to kill her, and so now all the different guardsmen are looking for them. They get split up in the city. They're on the run, and Dr. Phosphorus, yes, he comes upon a house with a family.
Yeah.
Father, mother, daughter, and you think everything's going to go horribly wrong, and it's okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I think it's just like him remembering his child, where he's like, he actually he has like breakfast with her or something like that, and then they start like, playing together and stuff
Right.
like that. So it's like him remembering like what it was like with his child and whatnot. So that was
the major part. But
Yeah,
then
it
the
was, yeah.
secondary storyline is with Nina and the bride.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, we'll talk about Nina and the bride first. So Nina and the bride, they get split up together, and they end up running into a brothel.
Yeah.
So they go into a brothel, and of course, all the women there,
Mhm.
and I mean, it's kind of your basic.
Yeah.
They don't care that they're in this brothel, and they're kind of amazed that these women are doing this.
Mhm.
They give a little bit of a like, don't you respect yourself kind of thing, and they're like, hey, this is a job. We earn money for this. It's not the greatest thing, but
Right,
it's what we have to do. And then of course you get the slimy menfolk coming in, and
Right.
and then the bride reluctantly, because she doesn't really take to physical violence against women.
Yeah, and there was a part in episode 6. I don't remember who told her this, or who said this to her, but they were like basically saying to the bride was like, the bride does basically everything she can to die, basically, and I think that's just with becoming like part of the Creature Commandos and going on these like I don't want to necessarily say suicide missions, but like I mean obviously she can't really die. So,
Yeah, we're
I
not
mean,
sure what
yeah.
a real, her ability. Yeah, we assume that because she's not really living technically,
Right,
in a human sense, that maybe she can't die. But I think it ends up that a lot of this show is her journey. Like she's definitely the main arc of the whole thing.
Mm.
And I think, and we'll talk about at the end of 7 that there's a transformation going on in her character arc. And one of the big things about this scene, although it seems superfluous to the overall plot, is her and Nina kind of bonding.
They do, yeah,
a little bit, right? And but the bride is, of course, unwilling to show any kind of emotion in that
Exactly.
sense, so just tosses it off as you're pathetic, and I have to keep track of you, and and stuff like that. So, and then we have Weasel, and basically he just gets in trouble with some wolves, and you think it's going to go bad, but then they just play fetch.
Exactly.
So and that's kind of fun. Yeah, that's kind of fun, kind of nice. And then, we forgot to mention, what's the big cameo?
Batman. Yeah, Batman shows up for like 3 seconds.
Yeah, so if you're waiting for a cameo from an established character from the DC universe, you got it in this episode. Batman shows up in the Dr. Phosphorus backstory, in silhouette on the roof. Now, we were having a discussion that online, maybe some people are like asking which Batman this is. You can't tell at all. I will just say that I'm almost positive I heard when he showed up in the lightning crackled that it was the animated Batman.
I think so too. Yeah, after the second time I watched
it. I mean, if anything, it's the animated Batman, which is fine by me. I love the animated Batman. So who knows? But that was a fun little cameo. And so the episode ends with Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So Frankenstein is still on his journey to get reunited with the bride, and he decides that he's gonna, he finds out where they are, and then he decides to, of course, travel to the other country, and of course he needs a jet, and of course...
Yeah, he's another one.
He's another one where, obviously it's against type. David Harbour, who does the voice from Stranger Things, and he played Hellboy, I think. He does a great Frankenstein.
He does. He really does.
And his voice reminds me of, because I could have sworn that it was, and now I can't remember the actor's name, but it's the Kurgan Highlander. Tell me in the comments, because I just forgot his name. But anyway, famous. He's also the voice of Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants. That's one of his famous voices. Yeah. But you can tell his voice as soon as you hear it. David Harbour seems... I don't know. It's very Kurgan-esque in terms of, or that actor's voice. So I was surprised. I kept having to check the credits, like, oh yeah, it's David Harbour, but it kind of sounded like the other actor that I'm referring to. So, but anyway, it ends on, I don't know, not really a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's basically then
it just ends.
Let's go kill the princess. Basically. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So onward. So did you like that episode? I mean, overall,
I did. Yeah. It probably wasn't. I don't think it was my favorite, but I'd say it's in top couple. Yeah. I
mean, Dr. Phosphorus is, I like the goofy, the kind of the humor, and then of course the unrepentant violence, I mean, of course that's always a good thing. Yeah, this was one of my favorites, I think, overall. It gave all the characters a little something to do. Yeah. But Dr. Foster's backstory is just, it's almost cruel, right? So some are it seems like we have Bride is sympathetic, Weasel was sympathetic. Dr. Phosphorus was sympathetic, yet they're all murderers. Yeah. So, I mean, Frankenstein's the only one that's out and out. This guy, there's no sympathy there. This guy's just kind of a crazed killer. So, all right, so onward to number 7. So 7, again, the backstory is Nina, and we're going to wrap up the storyline in this one. We're going to find out which is right, because we did find out in episode 6 that it's definitely possible that because Clayface had imitated the doctor, that Cersei had set, Dr. Fierce, that Cersei had set that up to make Amanda think that the princess was evil, and so this whole mission to kill her is actually a false mission. So he does wake up from a coma. Briefly, so we still don't know if he's gonna live or die, because he's definitely not, but he did wake up from coma long enough to tell Amanda Waller, that give him the name and get her on the hunt, and she figures out that Clayface, impersonated, and so that kind of jumpstarts her into, oh, maybe I've been tricked. The question of the timing, so we had talked about this, was Dr. Phosphorus killed before she... I think
McPherson, you mean?
Or McPherson, sorry. Was she killed by Clayface and imitated Clayface was the one that went to the base, right? I think we find that out kind of at the end when it's flashing back into the because we were worried about because when it was Cersei that does the mind meld,
right.
So. Okay, we'll talk about this at the end.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble with the plot. All right. Okay, here we go. So it's Nina backstory. So talk to us about Nina's backstory.
Yeah, so we kind of, after she's born, she, basically her lungs like are on the outside of her body and they're full of like this liquid and, obviously her dad's a scientist, so he makes this like contraption for her and to help her live. And but it's like this big contraption to where it's like it's so heavy for her.
It's like an iron lung.
It is, yeah. So it's it's kind of tough seeing like the kid kind of go through that, especially what was it like maybe a little bit towards more the middle of the episode where you see her like she's really tired and she's like, she's like I can't.
Well, and then the husband and wife.
Like,
the wife can't handle it.
Yeah, so she leaves.
And she leaves.
Yeah.
Which was sad. Yeah. Yeah, so he gets desperate because he knows that he realizes that, he can't keep just making her iron suits to wear. That's going to be an impossibility. Yeah. So he goes one step further and develops some sort of DNA genetic sequencer thing that hopefully will alter something, and so he does the procedure and what happens.
Yeah, she gets gills and she gets like webbed hands and all this, so then he has to build something else for her to like to live basically. Right. So but let's see what else was there.
Well, he tries to socialize her, but so he homeschools her. But then when she's a teenager,
she gets bullied,
she goes to high school, and the typical bullying stuff happens, and she's already wearing the fishbowl outfit basically. Yeah. Not as high tech as the one she wears now, but but then it just gets worse.
It does, yeah. I mean, towards the end of this episode, obviously you have Weasel, the bride, Dr. Phosphorus, and Nina, about to, break in. They find a spot to like basically break into the princess's like courtyard, basically, and it's just pure pressure. Like that's basically all it is, about the bride's like, the only one, because the princess is about to, she's about to go for her, morning swim or whatever it is, and she's like, you're the only one that can, kill her. And so, obviously Weasel doesn't want her killed because she reminds him of, a child that he used.
That was a good plot point that I had forgotten until they referenced it. But she did play with Weasel while they were there the first time in like the second or third episode or whatever. And yes. And so then, and of course in Weasel's mind, she also had the blonde look of the girl that he played with. So that was good writing there to bring that back. Really was. Yeah. And that causes Weasel to be, to kind of, ruin some stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it got real.
It did.
Super quick. So we find out that Nina, basically the bullying was too much. And so in her backstory, she runs away from home and writes her dad a lovely, very sad letter that she appreciated everything he's done with him, but she's got to go be on her own where she can't be bothered.
And I think she even like gets rid of like she gets rid of the suit and the helmet and everything, and I'm like,
she's just
like, I'm like, I know she's like going to like live in the
sewers. Yeah, right.
But it's like I would have still kept that suit.
Well, I don't think she was thinking.
That's true.
But then it's just, it just keeps getting worse because I'll be honest with you, and I think it's been said, at least in the show once, not only why is she here, but why is she on the team?
Right.
Like she's, once you complete her backstory, right? Her backstory is basically she becomes this kind of cryptid character that, the Gotham City people want to capture because, like a Bigfoot or something.
Yeah, exactly.
They capture her, and literally the dad, after she ran away, the dad was all sullen about it, finds out that that's her, goes to try and find her, save her, whatever, and then
shoot
gets killed.
Yeah. Like, what?
And he
What's
dies.
happening?
And you're like, oh my God, this is so sad. And so, and she doesn't, I thought, oh, okay, this is where she goes feral and just like murders everyone, right? And that's why, but she's not. And so exactly why is she kept in a prison?
Yeah. And that's,
I mean, she hasn't done anything to anybody.
Yeah. Yep.
So that would be my one question. I feel like that's a little, I don't know, iffy. And then the other thing is she has no real powers.
Right.
Or abilities other than she can breathe underwater. So in this one instance, she becomes the stealth ninja that can do the thing that needs to be done. But that, of course, wasn't part of some arcing plan. I mean, it would have been interesting if they could have written it where in the first or second episode they were looking at the compound, you know, kind of like a Dirty Dozen kind of thing, and goes, oh, well, she always goes, you know, her schedule is she always goes for a morning swim. You know, and they had planned out the original assassination that was Nina's job. You know, that way, coming up, you know, in episode 7, this doesn't seem like, oh, well, I'm glad she was here, the person that can swim underwater.
Yeah,
that is convenient, you know. So I feel like that's a lack of maybe a little bit of planning or writing.
Yeah, because then, you know, obviously, you know, she goes into the water, and you know that's when Weasel like freaks out, and then, you know, Nina and the princess wrestle a little bit, and then obviously, you know, belly up for Nina.
So the princess takes advantage because Nina didn't want to kill her.
Right, yeah.
I mean, she was going to do it, but she didn't want to.
And it's just like, you know, I think Nina definitely did not deserve that death. No, not whatsoever. Like, any of the other Creature Commandos, like, well, not even, I don't know, like Weasel, for instance. Like, I don't even know if
Well, no, but they've all I mean, as far as we know, Nina has not even committed violence against anyone. There's not one instance in the show where you could say she attacked or hit. I don't know that she hit anyone or attacked anyone. She was just hiding from bullets or running away.
The bride was always backing her up.
Right, and so... No, Weasel, at least, he was mauling people. He definitely killed people, you know. I mean, so... I mean, yes. So, you know, basically the show set up tragic backstories for these characters, but they're still all murderers. They're unabashed murderers, whereas Nina is separate from that. She's literally done nothing wrong. She still hasn't done nothing wrong. And then she got killed. So neither one of us are happy about that. Now... I understand that the whole setup was more for this was set up for the bride's arc, right?
Yeah.
So I get that. It's just very depressing that that's the way that had to happen, I guess, or go down.
Well, at least her death was, you know, the bride goes after, you know, avenges her.
Yes. So anyway, so at the same time that's happening, Amanda Waller figures out that she may have been played. So actually calls off the hit. Like right after Nina dies, call off the hit. So you're like, okay. You think, okay, there you go. But then what happens?
And then the bride comes face to face with the princess, and inside, I think, her like office or whatever.
Her office.
And I can't remember the exact like conversation that they had.
She basically goes through all the clues that led her to believe or led her to know that it's actually the princess is the one that set it up. So she actually is the psychopath that Cersei says she was. She set up Clayface, and that's where I said about the timing. So I didn't understand how would Clayface know to take out that professor in order to impersonate him and go to but we find out that there was a spy on the base from the princess that gave the info, and then she hired Clayface to do that and to set up Cersei so that it would feel like she was the one that did it or something. I don't know. It's a little, again, the timing is a little nebulous to me.
Right.
I'll buy into it. But ultimately she is, I guess, an evil psychopathic world.
Well, and the fact that, like, you know, obviously, you know, the bride puts a bullet right between her eyes, But honestly, I did not think that was going to go down that way. Like, I thought, if she has, if the princess has like powers and stuff.
I don't think she does.
Oh, you don't-
I thought
okay.
for a second when she was underwater
her
killing
eyes.
the eyes.
Yes, yeah.
So I thought maybe she was possessed or
Okay.
something like
Yeah.
that, maybe or something. I
Mhm.
thought there was something else going on, like maybe she didn't consciously do any of that, like that
Mhm.
she was possessed. But I assuming
So-
without any other information,
Right.
yeah, the bride figures it out, tells her she figures it out. They have a little standoff, and the bride whacks her.
Yep.
And then they walk out
Yeah.
of the castle to
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah.
And but we can't leave this without, again, another negative I have about this show is the Frankenstein
Yes.
character. Okay, so the Frankenstein
Yep.
character is literally since episode 2, I think,
Yeah.
has been this travel to get to the bride.
Mhm.
He does get there halfway through this episode. And you're like, and especially weird because he's in the credits.
Right. Yeah.
Like, if
Yeah.
you watch the credits, you think, oh, he's part of the team. So you
Mhm.
figure that this is going to be a lead up to maybe he being on the team or something.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe he still will be. But basically, like, yeah, he meets her, and then the bride does what?
Shoots him
Just-
like a couple times.
Just absolutely kills him and then walks
Yeah.
away. But you said, because I only watched...
Oh yeah. 'cause you
I only watched
the
up to the
post-credits.
credits.
Yeah.
Okay, so spoiler, there's a post-credit
Yeah.
scene, so make sure you watch the post-credit scene. And what's the post-credit scene?
Yeah, so basically it's like him being nursed back to health kind of again, just like, a couple episodes ago where, that older lady
Yeah.
found him and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And then that was it. That was the end. So I was like,
Okay.
So
He's,
I guess
so he's
season
still alive,
2,
right? So he's still alive.
Yeah.
So maybe he will be on the team, but yeah. So the arc ends. I guess we've got the villain is taken care of, but
Mhm.
things we don't know. Cersei, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, she should've
Cersei.
been,
Yeah,
yeah.
Cersei. I guess she's a prisoner, maybe, but yeah, we don't know that. We don't know. We don't know anything about Frankenstein.
Mhm.
We do get back to the base, and we find out that the bride has now. Oh, well, we find out that Nina was the bride's only. Like, she was
Right.
really. She has not shown any empathy or emotion for about anything this whole time, but
Mhm.
Nina she
But
did
Nina,
care
yeah.
about, and that, I think, did bring about a change in her. The fact that Nina was killed,
Mhm.
but she gets back and she gets leadership.
Yeah, and she gets a whole brand.
She gets
we see
a
G.I.
brand new
Robot
bunch,
again.
right? So yeah,
Yeah.
so G.I. Robot is back. I'm happy about that in a new
Mhm.
body. So that's cool.
Times
Land
10.
Shark,
Yes.
Land Shark.
Yeah.
Who's the? There was someone else there that I didn't recognize. We have time.
We can wrap it up.
Okay. All right. Yep. I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. So yeah. So overall, some inconsistencies, but yeah, if you like the first 5, you'll
Mhm.
like the last 2. So thank you for staying with us for this review, and hey, we'll find another show
Yeah.
to talk
absolutely.
about. So yeah, if you want, give us a comment and let us know what show you'd like us to talk about. So thank you, James.
Yeah,
You have a good
absolutely.
one.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
too.
Bye bye.